So, welcome. This is a new type of content that I'm really happy that I'm going to make. Yeah, I'm just so happy. So, let's dive in. These are not the films that made me fall in love with cinema. That are a lot of directors and films that I've watched like in my teen years that I know that have a lot of influence in my work and the way that I approach or see cinema, but I really didn't know what being a director meant. So I didn't understand the responsibility as well. Although many of these directors highly influenced me, still do, I can't really place a before and an after. And because this is a list and this is a YouTube video, I have to make some compromises and to have some criteria to choose the films. I will not include any Portuguese film in this list because that's my context. So I think it's another place. And I still wanted to say that this is me just trying to share an experience and my experience. So the first film that I will be talking about is Hiroshima Mon Amour. I just love this film. I love everything about it. I love the black and white. I love the intimacy. I love the fragmentation. Okay, but let me talk about before. Before watching Hiroshima Mon Amour, I was already invested in the idea of memory. I went to fine art school, and even then, I was already trying to understand memory in a visual way and not just my own individual memory but also the collective one. So when I thought about cinema and memory in cinema, I thought that memory should be almost linear because the audience needed to understand it. The film allowed memory to exist in its own logic. There are literature there and I feel the literature there, but it's not subordinate by it. There is this harmony, and I think it's a very well done film. Marguerite Duras wrote film. There is voice, there is repetition, there is a lot of things that are in the film, and they are not like trying to explain memory to the viewer. It is trying to function as memory. And that was very, very, very important to me. So let's talk about the next one. Honestly, I will talk about two films. I will talk about Children of Men, and I will quote Children of Men as one of the 10, but I can't really separate Children of Men from Y tu mamá también, because everything started with Y tu mamá también. I was in high school. I was very keen to the idea of sex, desire, teen discovering themselves, something that was so far away from my reality, but things that I really do desired and wanted to experiment. And then I was studying some philosophy regarding art and cinema. I saw an interview by Slavoj Žižek that I think is someone that have these strong ideas and you should filter them. But he was talking about how Children of Men and Y tu mamá también were like the same movie. It was revolutionary. The beginning of the film is exactly the same. The characters, I can read those films like Y tu mamá también is like the disbelieving in utopia. Children of Men is the opposite. It's like believing in a dystopian world. First of all, regarding Children of Men is that it showed me that you can do or you can make a science fiction film looking like a regular film that happens today. The other thing is the camera work. And in these continuing shots, there are moments when the camera leaves the main characters and just walks around and shows you that world. He does that in Into Mamá También as well. This camera that has a body has a choice and feels like a character, a body that is there. It's not high, it's not lower, it's just at the same height as the characters. And the camera is just there walking around and show you everything. Like you are part of that world. I have to thank because I was trying to understand more about cinema at that time. And then I realized that what is outside a frame is so important that it is inside it. When you're directing, you're not choosing only the frame, but everything that is outside that frame. And talking about the technical stuff, like building a car just to have a camera on top and to be able to do those camera movements that Alfonso Cuarón wanted, I will talk about Kiarostami. It's very difficult for me to talk about Kiarostami in a personal level, especially about the film that I'm talking today, that is The Taste of Sherry, because I have a very personal connection to the film, to the story of the film, even The Taste of Sherry. So to talk about Kiarostami is the simplicity of everything and the day life simplicity. The Taste of Sherry is like just a man driving a car moving through like this arid landscape, and a simple question that is so powerful. On paper, I think it sounds like a very minimal idea that could feel very empty, but it's so human. It's so effective that it is very transforming for me as a viewer and as a director. And this simplicity, even the shots, the no fancy movement, no fancy gear, I think the weight of it, especially the moral one, is so heavy. After watching Kiarostami films, I was paying attention less to the technical stuff and how they do that or how they do this, but also about the idea that you can be impactful without the fireworks and the extravaganza that the technical stuff brings you. It's about Close Up. I will just say that Close Up is one of the films that I put to another one that is from Portuguese cinema, that is by Manuel Oliveira, Ato Primavera. And this idea of having fiction and non-fiction and everything all together. I will not dive a lot into that now, because I think it will be like another conversation for another time. But I think Kiarostami gave me method and taught me that I could do stuff with less, and that was cinema as well. And talking about simplicity and doing things with less, I will talk about Blue by Derek Jarman. I was studying art in my high school, and I knew Derek Jarman already because I saw the Caravaggio ones, the films that he and Peter Greenaway usually do about Rembrandt, these very art style films. I knew what he created, and I understand that, but I didn't feel much of what he was doing, because I think there is like opacity between the viewer and what he's trying to do, and I think that works for his type of cinema. But what I'm trying to say is that my cinema is not like that. Like Fassbinder also, that I can put like in a realm that I can appreciate, but I think I will never do something like he does. About this film, about Blue, it was not long a time ago. I was already in my master's degree, and I was researching about self-portrait films, and my tutor, when you're doing like the dissertation or the final project, you have someone that helps you or guides you, and he convinced me to watch Blue, so I did. And I was in my room living in Porto at that time during COVID, and I watched it alone in the dark. My laptop on the bed. I was laying there with my phones and invaded by that blue light from my screen. That was so impactful. I haven't watched the film again. It was one of the best and devastating and at the same time human experience that I had with a piece of work. And it touched me very, 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 very much. Cinema is more than image. It's a lot of things put together. And I think the most important one is the idea, and the storytelling in that is amazing. Amazing. I start understanding cinema more as an experience rather than a representation. Representation is still very important. What do I have to talk about Aftersun? Aftersun is a new favorite. Like I said, I was already engaged with memory. With Charlotte Wells, I think I went back to another realm that it's like more narrative as well, but always with an input from a director. I would have these type of jobs in my head, one as me as a writer and another one as a director. And when I'm writing, I'm trying not to feel as the director are imposing to the writing. And when I'm directing, I try to just forget that I wrote that. So I think we have to be clever in that sense, trying to separate things. But when I watched Aftersun, I realized that most of the things that help telling the story are derived from the directing style. Maybe it was not, and she worked in a different way. I haven't seen her statements on that. But for me, at least, I understood that maybe I can put a lot of my directing style into my writing as well. One thing that I'm thinking right now is the rug. When I finished that film, I was thinking, okay, I really wanted to make a film like this. Like this artistic jealousy or envy that I really wanted to make something like this. And not just because of the plot or the story that she was discovering this her own queerness as well, but because she's reconstructing memory with camcord device, like the recordings. Still, I don't have a lot of words to describe it, but I think it's very impactful in that way, because I think the writing and the directing style are both very aligned, and it helped a lot to feel the atmosphere, to feel the tone right away. And it wraps all together in that beautiful, beautiful shot at the end. Beautiful. That I'm playing it in my head. And talking about writing and fiction, but self-representation, I will talk about Agnès Varda. I just love her in a lot of ways. But I will talk about this masterpiece that is, I have the name in French here. Why, Ruben? Why? De Gleaners et la Gleaners. Gleaners. The Gleaners and I don't know that word, but I understand it's the same thing as in Portuguese, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Varda, in her broader sense, was one of the most influential in my work, especially now. I love documentary, and I still want to make more documentaries. And I think she taught me that documentary is not just you observing something. You can participate in it, not in a way that Cinéma Vérité did back then, but in a way that you, your body, your presence, your reflections, your ideas can be put in the film as well. And another thing that she awakened in me is this idea that the only thing that you need to make a film or to make cinema is just a camera, a computer, and cats. I have the three. I have three cats. I have a computer and I have a camera. And it's my old camera. I have this camera for 10 years. It's the same that I always used. The last films that I did, I rented cameras and those gear and those type of things. And I always think, oh, this is not great quality. And sometimes you don't care about quality. You care about the idea. You care about the real and the realities that you create. Maybe I will do more films like that in the future. For me, it has that practical sense of freedom, freedom to create. The other thing that really resonates in this film is the idea. She has this idea, a very good one, and she translates that between the rural space and the urban space, and the tension between the presence of the director, the when she puts herself as like a painting. I like this plurality of her work that goes and brings to cinema all of different ideas, and it's just her reflection on things, on living, on life. And yeah, she is just there talking, thinking while filming. She doesn't say sorry or apologize for that. Yeah, She's amazing. I love her. Let's go now to the director that I'm always excited to see a new film. We're going to Turkey, and it's Nuri Bilge Ceylan. I love his cinema. The one that I'm talking now. He also acts in it. It's like it's not his best work, but it has a very direct impact in me because of one particular scene, and I will talk about that. So, what interested me in this particular scene of climate, that the directing style was talking direct to me. They are on the beach, and there is a monologue, a conversation, someone rehearsing like a breakup scene in his head, and then spoiler alert, and then it's just one simple thing that happened, and then it's not a rehearsal, and it's the exact moment, and then it's like a punch to the viewer, and for me it was like whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm okay. There was a jump in time, and I just realized it now because oh, whoa, it was that impactful on me, and was showing that particular clip to everyone. It was so annoying, and there are a lot of things on that film that don't make you relax. The shallow depth of field, the framing. So what I think that it taught me is that as a director, you have this decision to make the craft or the medium really talk, and saying to the viewer, this is me making this decision that I really want you to pay attention. It's not the story that is talking, is not the actors or the characters that are talking, is the director, because you choose that. You have that power, and directing requires power and responsibility as well. It's like Spider-Man. Oh, I just saw the Spider-Man Into the Verse, and I just love it, love it, love it, love it. I didn't record though, and I saw it maybe, but sometimes I just want to watch films by myself, and I'm so glad that I did. So I'm sorry for my selfishness, but yeah, I will move on because this video is already too long. So talking about directors that talk direct to you and have a really impact on me is like one of my masters. I always say that. And I will not talk about my favorite film of his, but I will talk about the film that I think represents his directing style and his idea of cinema the better, and it's the most recognized one, I think. So I will talk about Ozu, and we're going to Japan. Ozu does this film, Tokyo Story, with only fixed shots. No, fixed is it's a false friend in Portuguese. Like steady shots. So I used to think that to make you relate to a character or to a feeling, you should like go. My brain is going to Portuguese. To go further, to decrease the distance between the character and the camera, but with movement. And Ozu tells you a story with no movement, and a story that resonated with me so much and touched me so much because I understood that he can put emotion in these simple gestures and simple actions and even simple words. And at the same time, does a film where he portrays like such violence in some ways. I think we all did to our parents. This violence that is like, oh, I don't have time for you right now. Then there is no more time. It is beautifully shot. The framing is beautiful, but it's devastating because of that, I think. It's very impactful because you are watching to these simple gestures, to these beautiful shots, and then they carry this weight that is very difficult to ignore. And I think this juxtaposition between what it is beautiful to look at and what is difficult to understand, it broke my heart, honestly. Talking about stillness and simplicity and, of course, the framing, I will talk about someone that has a lot of movements, like vertiginous, that is Andrea Arnold. And I will talk about Fish Tank. I love her work, and even the Wuthering Heights, that I feel that I have a lot of problems visually, it strikes me. I have to talk about Ozu, and I have to talk about her because I think they approach cinema in very different ways. One is like a tripod and the camera there, just the framing, okay. And she's like, no, I want everything with movement and everything is shaky and a lot of cuttings and do. And she's effective in what she does. And for me, I had to understand if I was both, if I was none, what I was, but they helped me understand what I wanted to do. Andrea Arnold has a lot of shots and a lot of ways, and the cat and everything, but it brings instability and intensity to the scene. I think that her shots, especially in Fish Tank, you can understand how she restrains when she wants to portray the imprison that the character feels, and at the same time the freedom with the horse. I think that her style of directing those type of different sceneries are very, very clever. And I think her framing is beautiful. I think the story is amazing. I think that elevates that social reality that Britain are very known for. It feels chaotic sometimes, but I think that's the idea. I think she has a very precise way of doing it, although it seems chaotic. So maybe her process is not chaotic at all. It's just the feeling. For me, as a director, it shaped me to understand that I have to find my own pace or my own rhythm between what is else there, but at the same time I have to understand what the story needs at that moment, what demands, what I want to convey, or what I want to portray. And I don't want to be a slaver of a technique or a broader idea of an authorship that stated myself or established myself as a director that only do camera movements, so I will have camera movements everywhere. I don't think it works that way, or I think for me it doesn't work that way. But sometimes I try to understand what makes me a different director, and I think those two help me a lot. And finally, after these vertiginous hand-made shots that Andrea Arnold used, let's go back to someone that is very restrained, contained, but so effective, especially about violence. Michel Haneke. Michel? I know him for a long time. I discovered it when I was 15, I think, when I saw The Piano Teacher with Isabelle Huppert. Amazing. Funny Games is one of the films that I like the most. As a director, as a viewer, it's raw. And there is one particular scene that, another time that the directing style talks to you in a very, very direct way. I will not spoiler that one. But I will have to talk about the White Ribbon. Laço Branco, because I saw that I was already studying cinema at the time, and I knew that I wanted to be a film director. I was already aware of the idea that Haneke likes to show you the consequence of the violence and not the violence in itself. But I think only when I watched this film that I fully understood his approach in that sense, like, because we're talking about kids, and kids can be violent, and even the parents kicking the kids, he's not showing the kicks. He's showing his father expression, or his mother watching that scene, and I think that's more impactful. The viewer is left to his own imagination. He has another thing, not only about violence, not only about what he shows and he shows not, or what the consequences of the things. I think it's the end, because sometimes you have no resolution. In your day life, sometimes you spend years trying to find an answer to something, and then there are none. And that's it. And at that time, I remember to feel frustrated, like for 1 second. And then I start smiling, and I was like, you. Because I think it was very, very powerful and more effective than me really knowing what was going on. I really like that. And make me understand that sometimes I will make these type of choices as a director that piss someone off, and that's okay, because that was my decision. That's what I wanted, and there are a lot of people that will not enjoy or like my films, and I think I try to please a lot of people with even my team in some films that I did, that I lost my identity and myself in those type of things, and that's why I don't like the recent films that I made. But saying that, this is the type of films that I shape me, and I think that in the future I will be more me in the things that I'm doing. So this is the list. I'm not sure if in 10 years this will be the same list. 10 years ago it wasn't at all the same list. But this is the films, or these are the films that stay with me, that help me or teach me something, and some explanation about that. Do you have films like this? Do you know these films that I'm talking about? Just let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for being there. Até já!